Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? It is Tuesday, December 10th, 2013. This is Day 9 Daily number 658, where we learn to be a better gamer. And I forgot to pay rent for the month of December. Asher watches the show sometimes as well. So if you're watching this, hopefully you're not watching it on the archive, because that means it would be up to a day later. In today's show, we're doing a Newbie Tuesday-esque theme. This is not particularly an official Newbie Tuesday. It just kind of wound up being this way because this show was originally scheduled on Thursday, but I locked myself out of the house. And it's very difficult to do a show with telepathy. So, it was moved to today. And the topic in today's show is we're going to watch 3 Protoss games in each of these 3 parts. And they're just easy 12-minute game wins. The show might even be short as well. Now you might be going, what is this, Dark Templar 3 games in a row? In the 3rd game, yeah, and in the other 2, it's a different kind of cheese. Ooh! Well, actually, let me not say cheese. Let me just tell you the topic succinctly, and then I'll go on all the tangents I want. We're going to watch 3 simple 12-minute win games as Protoss. First, a Protoss vs. Terran, then a Protoss vs. Zerg, and finally a Protoss vs. Protoss. We'll talk about the simple ways to construct your own simple, easy, straightforward 12 to 15-minute wins, generally relying on 2 bases. Because I love long-term play. I love this beautiful, evolving, multi-based, mini-map focused, macro-heavy style, but I've played strategy games for 15 years, and I know many people in the chat have played it for like 2, and why do the hardest thing ever when you just want to win sometimes? You want to play 5 games a week and have some wins, think some thoughts, not too many, but just enough. And that's what we're going to be doing today. Builds that only require just enough strategy. First, let's crack our necks. It didn't work. Okay. Next week's Fun Day Monday, submit to me a game where you open up 2 Stargate Oracle. Don't care if you early expand, don't care if you 1 base, just got to be 2 Stargate Oracle opening. Want to see, submit those to Monday at day9.tv. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a Gimmick Mage tutorial on Hearthstone. It's really easy, it's really effective, and it is so delectable. We'll be doing that tomorrow. Thursday, it'll be a regular StarCraft Daily. Friday, I'll be playing a game, probably Super Nintendo game from the list of greatest games of all time from the Super Nintendo, compiled on the forums. Yeah. I'm going to be taking a vacation during the week of Christmas, by the way, the 23rd to the 28th. There will be not a show in sight, but then I'll be back. Probably even going to do a show on New Year's because, like, no one parties hard at 7 p.m. on a New Year's unless they know how to have a good time. And that's what we'll be doing live on air, I assume. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Let me not make a commitment. Let me talk about strategy. So, we're looking at a screen. We have Liquid TaeJa, and we have the individual who will be providing us the 3 games, Elfi. Ooh, Elfi TaeJa. Down at the bottom left. Now, before I go into great excess of what we're going to see in this game, I want to talk about what I talk about. Isn't that meta? Let's talk about what I talk about. I love third bases. Third base focused strategies. So on a map like this, what would be a 3 base focused game for Protoss? Here would be an example. We early expand with 1 gate. We get a Robo to defend our 2 bases. We get some Colossus and double upgrades and 6 gates for defense, so that way we can walk out and take our 3rd base. Maybe we even want to do something a little bold, like go 1 gate, expand, and then a 3rd base, and then flood with gateways and blink to defend against the inevitable pushes. I always talk about 3 base play because virtually any composition, any mix, any strategy you want functions very, very well on 3 bases. Also, 3 base sort of automatically sets you up to take more bases later on in the game. If you're focusing just on 1 base, you're pretty much able to spend all your money, and it's possible to never expand ever again. So we've talked about the 3-base strategies because not only does it let us do everything that we'd normally want to do, but it can also set us up to get more bases and let the game keep going so we're not totally boned if our 3-base play doesn't work. I say this so many casts. StarCraft 2 at a high level is about 3-base strategies. So it looks like what I'm going to do is betray that. And I am kind of. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about what Elfi's doing as a simple 2-base play, but we're also going to note that Elfi isn't going to screw himself over by going all in on 2 bases. There is a hidden little next step that we'll see, because I don't want you to be on the ladder doing all-ins and when they don't work going, oh, well, crud, I guess I'll try harder next game. Alright, we're going to do a 2-base play. 2-base plays, in fact I should say everything that we're going to be seeing in this daily, will always have 2 steps. Always. Now, you might be thinking like, alright, step 1 is pylon and step 2 is rest of build. 2 strategic plan steps. One is the setup. It's kind of like throwing the ball up like that, and the second one is knocking him dead. It's the basic idea. You don't want to just swing the bat. You don't want to just do the knock dead play. You want to do some kind of setup. And this is a really simple one that we're going to see in part 1. Okay, let us watch. This is what I'm going to call a metagame play. It's where Elfi is going to go Nexus first on this map. So I'll tell you right now, Elfi is going to set himself up a big gateway attack. So we have the Nexus going down first. I want you to think about how simple the statements are. Our whole goal is to kill him with a big gateway-based attack. So step 1 is going to be getting our economy up in huge amount and getting our forward pylon. And the next step is going to be getting, our first step is going to be getting up a good, solid economy so we can support a lot of gates. And our second step is going to be setting up a forward pylon and killing with a bunch of gates. Almost any strong 2-base play, like probably 95%. And that 5% is just me giving myself an out. Pretty much any 2-base play has this setup move and the follow-up move. The setup move is often going to be aggressive. Not always, but it can be, as we'll see in part 2. But this is the simplest form of setup. It's a setup that, as you'll see, is somewhat extreme. This is not a reserved 1-gate expand. This is just a straight Nexus expand. But the setup doesn't depend on the opponent responding in any particular way. So let's go ahead and see Elfi's build in detail as he sets himself up. Going for the double gas, great. Chrono boosting probes. Let's look at the chrono boost throughout this. And keep an eye on this probe. So first, we're going to look at the setup phase. He's trying to get up a good economy. Now let me just tell you a fact. If you go gateway first, then a cybernetics core, and then an expansion, you're doing the most typical Protoss opening. But you don't really have enough probes to get a lot of gateways. You can generally only really support 3 gateways. Occasionally 4. That's all you can really do if you're getting your warp gate really fast. If you delay it a little bit, delay the warp gate just a pinch, you can get around 5 warp gates. But you kind of have to cut some corners there. So in other words, a gate expand, the normal Protoss opening, will yield you at most 5 gateways of solid production. Here, because Elfi went for this Nexus first, let's see how he kind of deals with his economy. Going straight for the cybernetics core, a zealot. This is necessary for early defense. Now, most often, people will just auto-default spam out a mothership core as fast as possible. Oh, Elfi's probe got repelled. And notice how little interaction there is with our opponent throughout all this. Alright, we have 3 in each geyser. Rallying probes down here. I'm trying to click around. Oh, we just now have enough energy to do a chrono boost. And what are we going to do? Warp gate? Mothership core? Great. And a stalker will be ordinarily the next thing. Almost always a player builds a stalker at this point in time. Why would we not be building a stalker? Because we're trying to save money. We want to get a big old warp gate push coming out soon. So here we're pushing them out. There's the mothership core to do the full-on outright repelling. I'm bouncing back and forth between these nexi to show you what's going on with the chrono boost. I think one of the easiest errors to make is to say, well, I am going for a gateway push, so therefore I'm going to get warp gate as fast as possible. Fast warp gate is very different from a big warp gate push. And here, Elfi's going for the big warp gate push. So we can see the chrono boost being spent onto probes, onto Nexus. Because Elfi's trying to hit critical mass, he's trying to hit 16 probes mining minerals at each location. Remember this probe that I told you to keep an eye on? Well, there he is, just getting into a position where he can do some sort of forward warp gate play. I just heard a boop. I hope the stream didn't die. Well, whatever. Or I might be hallucinating. I don't know. So our warp gate is not coming out hyper duper fast. It's just coming out. More chrono boosts on the probes. Till when? Till we hit around 16 at each place. Why is there 15? Because here's the other guy. He's the 16th one. Alright, cool. So here's another bit of setup that Elfi's doing. So for the biggest, most important setup is the Nexus first, chrono boost on probe, and sentries instead of stalkers. I'll note that, I even saw it in chat, that if you get sentries early, it can build up energy for the force fields for the big attack later on. That is definitely true, and that's definitely a big benefit, but with most build orders, I want you to be thinking of economy first and units last. This is a good economic move to set us up. So cool. Setting ourselves up, saving the money. Very straightforward. Probe production still going strong, 2 at each. Here's 1, 2, 3 gateways off in the corner. When should you start building the gateways? When warp gate is half done. There be your timing. And Elfi's even spreading out his gateways, so it's hard to spot all of them at once. The mothership core, in more than enough time, will be able to throw out a photon overcharge should Elfi wish to do that, but the elects even avoid that. And there's the force field at the front, and yeah, building what would have originally been 7 gateways is now 6. I think he actually does throw down a 7th here. Either way, no big deal. Because what do you know? 16 workers is now at each location. 16 here, 16 here. Didn't that line up nicely? Double pylon just to be safe. Alright, cool. So, Elfi did cancel this one, and that's okay. 5 gates. This is a little bit different from the 5 gates I was referring to earlier, that, you know, if you can do an early expand, you can normally go 5 gates, but that's the max you can do. It's 5 gates of relatively cheap units being produced, zealots and sentries, not the expensive units, the stalkers, and that's with no more tech, nothing else going on at all. Watch what Elfi does. First, let's watch the attack. His opponent did a failed attack, so Elfi is going to apply pressure immediately. If pressure was not applied immediately, Elfi would have very likely let the gateways finish, built up a small army here, and then shoved closer to 9 minutes. Because his opponent did mess up an attack, he's just going right on in. There's some annoying drops happening right now. With 5 gateways of warp in potential, it's not a problem to hold it off by warping in defense. Elfi's doing the easy peasy push at the front, and with lots of gateways, I mean, it's really straightforward from here. It's an easy win. So I want to come back to what I would call the key decision point in the game right back here. Stoink. Oops. Gonna go back even further. No, I'm gonna go back even further. Wow, that happened actually quite early. Nice. At this moment while the gateways were going down, notice that Elfi doesn't know anything. He has no idea what's happening. A 6 gateway pressure is going to be very difficult for almost any Terran to defend at the front. But here's where Elfi leaves himself an option to do the next step. And let this be the most important lesson. Actually, no, let this be the second most important lesson of the day. That's right. Second most important thing to note, Elfi is giving himself the opportunity for a next step. And what's a very reasonable way to do a next step? Getting the geysers. Always the most reasonable one, because we have to get a lot of gas to do anything. But getting a Twilight Council. Why would getting Robo be a bad follow-up? Because Twilight Council upgrades gateway units, and we have 5 gateways. If we had like 2 gateways with our opening, a Robo makes a lot of sense. Because a Twilight Council upgrades gateway units, and we don't have a lot of those. But even with that said, we have this little attack coming up. I want you to note that this decision to tech up to Twilight Council happened before this attack occurred. But I mean, the basics, the number 1 most important thing I want you to take away from this daily, not the number 2, but number 1, is the idea of the setup, going for this Nexus first, and then the follow-up push. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Be-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Notice he's warping in lots of zealots, saving his gas for useful things back home, only having a couple stalkers, cause they're expensive. Dark Templar don't have to be in this. Probably throw down a forge right now to get my upgrades going down. But you basically won at this time. A double forge is a good play, it's fine. And he wins. Okay, you get it. Alright, cool. Cura. Again, the number 1 most important thing to take away from this part 1 is the interrelationship of the Nexus first, lots of probe chrono boosting, and the sentries to set up a lot of gateway pushes later on. Ta-da! It's the simplest form of the 1-2 punch in a 2-base play. Obviously, a big gateway attack, just saying we want to do a big gateway attack, isn't enough. We need to make sure that there is all the pieces setting that up. Now, I chose to do this one first because very often the way that someone will approach a game is say, ooh, I want to do blah. How do I make blah happen? And blah, in this case, is the big gateway push. And often, it's easy to just sort of like, okay, I guess I'm going to make gateways because that's what it needs to happen. But we need a lot of money to support the gateways, hence the Nexus first. We need a lot of money to start building the gateways, hence going sentries to save on our minerals. We need a lot of probes to do all of that, so the Nexus first. Cool. Nice. And of course, the second most important thing to see is that Elfi left himself open for a next step. 3 on the Twilight Council, double gas, double forge, and he could have played out. Now, when we come back in part 2, we're going to look at a different sort of easy 12-minute win play, which is going to be a first attack that screws our opponent up in some way, and then a follow-up attack to finish him off. And we're still going to see that there's possibility for a follow-up, even though our 1-2 punch wins. Stay tuned, we have more stuff coming up. Stuff coming up in part 2. Do-do-do-do-wop, pow.